Hello, hello. Well, it's working. There you go. Yeah, I know I don't need this microphone because I project very, but for the recording's sake, I have to walk around stuff like that. So yeah, just in case, some people get sick, some people get out of stuff. So just doing that for the sake. Life happens, right? Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's like it's one of those things like I keep saying good morning until you say it and you're like, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Well, that's fine. Good morning. Well, I happy to see you. How many of you like what? 35-ish? That's win. That's good. We have a 47. How about that? Come in. Your own time. Great. How was your weekend? You can bring in one more chair from there and you can sit there too if you want. Special. It's your special take. Not forcing you. Good weekend? Yeah, chill. Any special leisure? Busy. Ooh. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Any special leisure event activity? Skating. Where? Oh, City Hall Plaza. They have a outdoor. Oh, that's so Canadian. Love that. Anything else? You went to Oilers game? Ooh, nice. Oh, they lost. I mean, you kind of gambled when you bought a ticket, I guess, at this point. I don't know how they're doing well, but yeah, good. Hope it was fun. Anything else? Nothing. You just stay there at home, watch some Netflix shows, which is what I did, but that's fine. Chill weekend is good too. Once again, my name is Shintaro Shin, and for those of you who missed the last class, and we already did the orientation. So if you have questions, let me know. Since we only have our partial notes up for the last class too, you can ask me the access to the recording and you can see the entire thing. It's not like I just blanked a few words toward the end. I didn't want to talk about the syllabus all the way down. So if you miss it, let me know and I'll give you access. Okay, so this is the course that you want and pay and whatnot before the drop line. When's the deadline? To drop or add courses? 18th? Gosh, we're giving some time. Make sure you know that deadline and you are sure before that. So this course, we're going to talk about leisure, keep talking about learning about leisure, but specifically from social psychological perspective. So that's what we're doing. And this chapter 1, let's do something. Can you close your eyes? And I'm not going to judge you or anything. Close your eyes, please. Raise your hand. Close your eyes. I can see your eyes. I can see your eyes. Beautiful eyes. Okay. If you read chapter 1 already, just raise your hand. No judgment. Okay. Thank you. Down your hand. You can open your eyes. That helps me to sort of like organize and massage what I'm going to speak today, because can I assume too much that, there's a reading, understanding or not? So, okay, good. You're busy. That's fine. So this is the 5 things we're going to talk about in chapter 5. The textbook talked about a lot of other things. Hey, Kirsten. But I'm going to focus on those 5. But basically, it's really still introductory to the field of leisure studies, specifically social psychology of leisure. So eventually, we're going to define what this field is about. We will learn some 3 major approaches to social psychological research. And we will talk about its relationship with the leisure, and more generally, what's leisure studies, and also why do we have to study leisure? Because, well, beyond taking this course, you're also in degree of burst. Many of you are. For those of you who are in a Bachelor of Arts, Recreation, Sports, and Tourism, those who are not. Good, welcome. Thank you. But Just a little bit of that information for those of you. I'm assuming many of you are studying something around recreation, sports, tourism, leisure, whatnot. Anyway, so why do we study leisure? The chapter provides this information. Well, one of the big contexts that we have to understand is that our society has changed compared to your parents' generation, or maybe your grandparents' generation. Gosh, you're keep getting younger, and I'm a student. Like, I'm getting older and there's age gap, but maybe grandparents, right? Maybe their time, it was the time when the social norm wasn't so strong, right? Tradition was strong. So following those traditions, trying to make some living so that they can survive, right? And they can make their family going, keep the family going. That was their, really whole purpose of their life. But we're living in today where we have some stuff. The economy is going to an extent, despite the way we feel about economy. Yeah, it's actually growing to an extent too. So most people believe that we achieved a society where we can create our lifestyle that will help, hopefully, with our health, well-being, happiness, all that kind of stuff. And they believe, people tend to specifically believe that we can change our work lifestyle, family, leisure, and make that quality of life, work-life balance better. So leisure is very key components of whatever the things that, what we call lifestyle, we want to make better, basically. So really learning what that is, what leisure is, what kind of leisure lifestyles can be quote unquote better or not, is really helpful just as a citizen, as a person, but also hopefully for some professionals, people working in a sports industry, tourism industry, park, maybe youth development camp, those areas. Now, I wanted you to just reflect a little bit too. Is this what you're doing? It's a new year. So if you were to make a new year resolution, what kind of lifestyle do you want to achieve 2023 moving forward? Is leisure part of it? Does that lifestyle you want have certain kind of leisure lifestyle, certain kind of leisure activity, certain amount of free time do you need? What kind of leisure actually are not part of it? Maybe you want to be active. 2023, hey, I'm going to hit the gym a certain amount of time. That means you're going to get your butt off of the couch, not watching Netflix so much maybe, and go to the gym. So there are certain leisure that you want to pursue and a certain leisure you want to kind of avoid. What is it? So I'll give you like 1 minute. What's your new resolution, Maddie? Reflect. Sorry. I'll love to listen to it later in about a minute. Sorry. Hi. Oh, what's your last name? What's your New Year resolution? What's the lifestyle? Sleep more. Now, sleeping is leisure or not? It's a survivor for you. Okay. Maybe after a certain point, it becomes leisure. Yeah. Always funny, interesting to me. One side of a classroom always have more students the other side. The idea of New Year resolution itself is actually proof, evidence that we, human beings, most of the people at least, well, some of the people, believe that we can change our lifestyles, right? We can make it better. Sure, most of the New Year resolution, just throw out a window in like on a January 3rd, probably. Have you seen the meme saying that like January 1st or 2nd and there's a gym is packed, January 3rd and just like nobody's there, right? But still, we believe, yeah, we believe that's important, psychologically speaking. We think that we could, right? So what's your New Year resolution, everybody? Anybody want to share? What kind of lifestyle you want to get in 2023? What kind of goal you have? 2023, yes, comment. Higher GPA, yes. Put that on, everybody's like, everybody's that thing, okay, higher GPA. But is leisure part of that too? Second question. Okay, so the breaks, leisure, certain activity, maybe relaxation, maybe quick exercises between, study time, because you can't keep going, right, for so long. Good point. Anything else? Hey, Isaiah. Get more organized in terms of time or space, room.
Well, again, kind of both space because I had to move in with my girlfriend.
Yeah. You have to move in with, sorry. I didn't.
There's lots of
That's okay. Okay, cool.
There's lots of organizing there.
So.
In terms of school too, because there's classes. There's
Yeah.
Lots of classes.
Lots of classes.
Some of them are harder.
Okay. And that's that goal involve also lifestyle involve some changes in the leisure.
Yeah, because I guess it's also like stereotypical that I'm trying to go to the gym more.
Yeah.
So
Try to go to gym more.
That into like organizing.
With all the time management and everything you have to do. Good. Anybody else? Yes, Krista. Read the books that are just not for school. Great one. I love that. Please. It's been 5 years for me, so please put that on. Please do that. It's good for you, right? When was the last time you did that? Well, see, like leisure, that's right there, leisure, right? So we believe actually we can hopefully impact our lifestyles, design a life that we want to, that makes you maybe happier. And leisure is a big part of that. Now, if we want to do something about it for yourself, maybe, one way to go about that, pursuing that lifestyle you want, is just trial and error. By yourself, you try something, it may not go well. Oh well, 2024, I'm gonna try again, and so on and so forth. But the time goes pretty quickly. So another way to go about it is bringing in a little bit of scientific perspective, right? And by science, we mean here social science specifically, because it's about human life. It's about human behavior, right? And what that is, social science, according to the textbook, is carefully, systematically observing. Systematic is key. It's about science. It's about, society, the way of thinking and looking at the society. We're trying to be quote unquote scientific, so it's like a natural science. But of course, we can't do the same thing with the natural science. We can't use we can't use mice to do the things that humans do, or we can't cut up a human beings and just try to poke too easily. But we try to be systematic. That's why we call that social science. And we do that at leisure too, because we want to understand what people do, what people want to do during the leisure time. And that's really social psychological approach to the leisure. So RLS 100, we talked about different perspective. Remember, we talked about arts and humanities. We talked about more philosophical perspective. We talked about history. We don't really talk about those things so much in this course. We talk about more about social science, a little more based on the data, and so on and so forth. Now, a little bit of background in history and social science, specifically psychology, that chapter talked about, to just better situate what we're trying to do in this course. We're going to talk a lot about how leisure relates to happiness, well-being, health, and whatnot, good stuff, right? But that wasn't the case. That wasn't popular at all over the past, back in the days, actually. In 20th century, especially during World War II, social science was actually weaponized, was used for the sake of military sometimes, to how to make military members resistant and resilient during traumatic events, traumatic, war zones experiences and whatnot. How to actually break the enemy's mind so that you can get the information. So there's a lot of research about coercion, right? And negotiation, confirmation, like how to force them to follow group dynamics, or how we make them not to follow group dynamics, so on and so forth. Research is around the trauma, like what we call the PTSD today, but that research started during World War II. So there's a lot of research around traumatic thing, extreme thing, negative things, so on and so forth. And there's a course in every single department of psychology, there's a course called abnormal psychology. And that's why, because that's where the psychology comes from, really. The today's society, modern psychology. Now, late 20th century and 21st century, we shifted in creating psychologists' perspective and to study daily activity and positive states. We didn't think that this is important, what we do day to day. You read a book every day, Krista. We didn't think it was important. Yeah, Krista, you just go ahead and just pick a book and read. It's gonna be good for you. What book? How? When to read? How to read? We didn't know nothing. We didn't think it was important. Exercise too, like, yeah, try to spend more time in the gym, try to do more exercise, try to do more reps. That's where we are. We didn't think that that was an important part of our life. What motivates exercising? You know, those things wasn't concerned. And now these people, Martin Seligman and you know this guy? Sorry, this is a little tiny font. Do you recognize this person's name? Unpronounceable name? Slow person, yes, yeah, good catch. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he died 2 years ago, I think. But he is the psychologist of flow. We're going to talk about later chapter. Some of those people came together and say, you know what? We have to actually study positive state. Because what they realized, especially this guy, Martin Seligman, his research was about what's called learned helplessness. Just a little bit off the tangent. What the learned helplessness is about the military people, it was a military application. He realized with the mice experiment that after there's a food, for example, right? And there's a cage, mouse in there, there's a little bit of food, right? When mouse try to open that, there's electrocution happens. So it's a pain, it's bad. It happens all the time. But they have to eat it eventually. They have to go through electrocution all the time because they have to survive. They have to get the food, right? And then after certain time, they take out the electrocution, right? And then they may realize that, mouse might realize that, but they actually, that stress level, that habits around avoiding and just kind of like, you know, reaction against like, is this okay? It never goes away. Sometimes they even actually stop trying and just starve themselves to death. We learn to be helpless. We learn that, oh, this is, you know, I'm helpless. There's no control in this situation. And we just give up. That was his research. And he wanted to address that. He wanted to address, okay, this happens, good. Well, not good, actually. How can we actually combat that? That was his research question. And he realized when he actually created some therapies and whatnot, and he realized actually addressing that trauma, helplessness, doesn't make people hopeful, optimistic, the better situation, in a better state. Fixing negativity wasn't equal to enhancing positivity. That's what he realized. And obviously this guy, Csikszentmihalyi, he's the one who wanted to always study the best experience ever, flow. If you're athletes, you know that as a zone, right? You're in that special moment. He always knew from the very beginning there's something really positive and we have to study it because that's not easy to achieve. And they realized, and they started the movement and field subtopic called, for example, positive psychology. People go like, why do we have to go positive psychology? So psychology negative? It was actually negative in a way. Now, going back to the leisure, people who study leisure since 1960s or so, we're a bit of different weirdos, as you can see, exhibit A, right? We're a bit of a weirdo. We're some of those people who kind of wanted to study the daily activities and something that makes us quote unquote healthy, happy, you know, go to the nature, come back to relax. We were interested in how, what about it? What's the benefit? When can we get them more, you know, more of that benefit, so on and so forth, from the very get-go, really. And these days, as you can see, some of those book titles, we started to actually learn from each other. Finally, right, researchers were like focused on our own things. Leisure people talking about just leisure, psychology people just doing psychology. But then 2000, after 50 years or so, we look at each other and say, hey, like they're doing similar things. They're doing similar things. We started to do more exchange ideas and so on and so forth. So in this course, you're going to see a lot of psychological research as well, not just the leisure researchers' work. so on and so forth, because there was a change, especially in psychology. Now, in RLS 100, Life, Leisure, and a Pursuit of Happiness, we learned that leisure is an important part of happiness. Hopefully you get that message. Hopefully you're like, yeah, leisure doesn't matter to happiness. That makes me unhappy, but anyway. This research meta-analysis, so it's a summary of dozens of studies, close to 70, I think. They concluded that actually leisure participation, how often you participate, is more important than how much money you make, what kind of job you have, whether you're married or not. Yes. So before worrying about being married, overrated, I shouldn't say overrated, leisure is important. So that's one of the takeaway. But more importantly, compared to other life aspects and domains, leisure is malleable. It's changeable. Do you think? If we know something more about leisure, okay, how to better design our leisure life, do you feel you can actually do it? Krista wants to read more books that are not about study. Do you feel like you can do this? Like 3 books that are not about studies. You feel like you can do it? What are you gonna do? What's the first thing you're gonna do to achieve that goal? Find a book. Get on a Kindle, right? Or just go to the bookstore for the Pete's sake. It's right there actually, and pick up a book, right? But if you wanted to change something about your work, let's say you have a job. Congratulations, that's good actually, right? You want to change something about work. I don't know what you don't like about work. Let's say, not liking your boss is kind of extreme. What else you can change? Your office space. Like you don't like something about your desk or something like that, right? Do you feel comfortable just next day, wake up, go up to your boss? Boss, I don't like this desk. Can you change like this? Can you do that? Well, you could. I don't know if you can get that, right? Or you may not actually, you may come back home that day without a job anymore. That's possible too. So arguably, we have more control and freedom. Our leisure life, it's more changeable. We can actually do something about usually our leisure. So if we know better about this aspect of life, it could actually help us better. Now, speaking of why do we care? Well, continuing the conversation about why do we have to study leisure, chapter talk about leisure being a major part of your life. It's actually a big part of our life. I know you feel like, Shin, this must be actually bogus. No. If you read this information in the chapter, did you get surprised? The chapter provided evidence saying that actually leisure is 1/3 of your waking hours. You woke up today, what time? 7 a.m.? 6? Ooh, it's 6 a.m. and you're gonna go to bed tonight at what? 10, 11, 11:30? Okay. 1/3 of that, 33% is leisure. Well, that's not, I know. Statistics is not about each individual, it's the average, right? Curtis is working too hard. That's okay. There you go. US Department of the Labor. So it's American time use survey with their tens of thousands of people shows that about 33% of our waking hour is leisure. Maybe not now, but you're going to get there. So don't worry. Hope you're going to get there. Yeah, you're going to get the 1/3 of your waking hours leisure, okay? Eventually. If that's so much, why are we not talking about it? That's the question, right? It's obviously important to talk about it. And the other major topic the chapter brought up is the professionals. So this is about normal people or everybody. Everybody, the statistics to an extent apply. But for professionals who are in the leisure field, such as maybe parks and recreation, something called a therapeutic recreation, tourism, youth development, sports, campus recreation, right here. We need actually evidence, research to improve the quality of services. So I'm assuming that many of you will get a career somewhere, sometime in your life, in maybe some of those jobs. If you do, You can't just go there and just, you know what? I'm gonna say what my camp counselor did like 20 years ago. Let's see how that works. You think this is bizarre, but it's not actually. A lot of people do this, and that's the situation sometimes. And that's why I hope that some of the things that we talk about today or this course will, and other courses will help. Actually, professionals think this is important. This was 2022 Alberta Recreation Parks Association's their labor market survey. So they survey thousands of people, parks and recreation professionals in this province right before COVID. So that's good. And one of the questions was about, okay, what do you think is the key competency? Like the thing, the skill, the quality, the ability, the experience that make recreation park professionals successful. One of the 5 major key competency was this. So theory, we talk about that in the course. Philosophy, you will learn about that more in different courses. Literature, literature, ooh, difficult. It's basically about research, the body of knowledge, evidence. It's important according to them. It's coming from thousands of practitioners. Another profession that are very popular is therapeutic recreation. Anybody heard about therapeutic recreation therapy? Yes. Anybody want to share what that is about? Go ahead.
Creation is the modality to help somebody maintain quality of life, improve quality of life, recover from something, improve social and mental health.
Yeah, thank you, Natalia. So right off the bat, just right after you took the quota. Awesome. So therapeutic recreation therapy, TRRT. It is about, just like Natalia said, using recreation. So not just the exercise, it's a little different from that sense, like OT, occupational therapy, speech therapy, or physical therapy. Those things, recreation can be more broader, right? Cultural activities, spiritual activity, artistic activity, all those things can come in. Using that for therapeutic purposes, that there is, people with a certain need, whether it's the disability or certain life needs. It's used in a rehabilitation field. It's used in gerontology. So with the old folks, for example, with the children, with the people with the mental health issues, with the people with the developmental and intellectual disability as well. So it's used in a very different area too, but it's very purposeful. That's the point, right? Purpose specific. It's not just about let's have fun, but okay, you have these needs. Let's do these things, hoping that that will help you. But now there's this organization, local organization called ATRA, Alberta Therapeutic Recreation Association. And on one of their code of ethics, I think, or it's actually philosophy position statement, but they say that practitioners of therapeutic recreation, they have to be updated by about the most up-to-date evidence for safe and ethical intervention. Where does that come from? The journal, research, evidence. That's what we're trying to do a little bit here. Now, there's actually some people, researched practitioners, to hear their thought about, okay, what do you think? You have worked in the field like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. What do you think about leisure? Well, in this case, in this study, theories related to leisure. How does that help your day-to-day thing, work? Mary Parr's research. She found that actually practitioners associated with whatever called leisure theory, she didn't define for them. The practitioner themselves defined. They thought that that was related to administration and programming, as in, designing activity, designing services day-to-day, planning, executing. That's where the theories come in. Another thing that they found, what she found, was that leisure theory and literature was used for this purpose. This is a big one. Justifying organizations' existence. A lot of organizations that you will eventually work for with this degree, you can try different things too. You know, sometimes you go to like totally different field, like finances. Sometimes I don't know, like, you know, I'm surprised, like human resources, which is fine. But if you go to recreation, sports, tourism field, what happens is that your organization tends to be either governmental, like a municipal park, you know, municipal, or not-for-profit, non-profit, not-for-profit, those things, right? So the government, you get the budget from the big guy, right, from the top. You have to justify, why do we have to, especially at a time like this, severe economy, we need to like justify your department. Otherwise, your department will disappear. Seriously, that happened a lot over the past 2-3 years. Or if you're working for not-for-profit, non-profit, you typically apply for grants, right? From federal governments, whatnot. You have to, or sometimes the private foundation, but still, you have to justify, explain why they have to give you that money. Deanne needs like $3 million for her like big natural, you know, the excess, you know, the work over there. Then she has to explain, this is why, these are the impacts that I'm making. This is how much I need to make this work. I need that money. You have to explain. That's where the leisure theory come in. That's where the knowledge hopefully come in. I work with some of the practitioners today, these days, that they have to apply for multi-million-dollar grants. Okay, that's 5 years, 10 years and stuff like that. But still, yeah, okay, work on that. My key role is to actually bring the literature in to justify what they're doing, actually, that it can be effective, it can be potential. It's very important so that they can get the money. But if you actually can't do that to an extent yourself, that will make you very marketable, right? So hopefully that's the hope too. Another research by the same person, Mary Park, found that actually practitioner associated leisure literature as in not just the theory, but also evidence, you know, what's written, the papers, you know, the papers, journals, those things to administration management, as well as activities and programming. So those are the two key themes here. Administration, programming. Now, this is important. Now, does that mean that we are friends? We work really closely. People like me, for example, the people who does the research with the practitioner, people who provide services and programs in the field. You can make a guess. Not necessarily. I'm busy here spending time with you guys, doing other things. This is my like 40% of my work. Did you know that actually? This is my 40% of work. There's another 40% that I have to do research, and then there's another couple. Wow, I don't bore with the details, but still, the point is, I do my own things, right? Practitioners, they're also very busy. We're not actually so necessarily good friends. I can be, but generally speaking, you know, we're like this more of. This is how I visualize us sometimes, practitioners and researchers, that there's a gap. They found that by talking to researchers and practitioners. Mary Per also found that actually there's a gap, there's a divide between the literature, research theory, and the practice and practitioners. Specifically, what she found was that practitioners see us academic, quote unquote, academicians who do produce these theory, research, evidence are out of touch with the reality. They don't know what's happening, what's the big issues and needs in the industry. And academician people like me think that practitioners are not using our evidence right. We're kind of like a pointing finger to each other. Have you seen this? Right? In your family, sometimes your mom and dad goes like, you. That happens sometimes. It's all good. Because of lack of training, maybe lack of effort, so on and so forth. Do you think so? I just wanted to pause here. I'm assuming that you have some interaction. You have had some interaction with their quote unquote academicians, exhibit A, or other professors, right? So you know them, you know their courses. And now you know you have some experiences with the practitioners, maybe. You have done, maybe some of you have done internship, right? So that's great. Some of you volunteered. Some of you worked at the CCR, campus and community and campus and community recreation. Some of you were just using their services. You're a member of the gym, so you know how they operate. My question is, do you think, quote unquote, let's say academicians like us, no hard feeling, y'all, by the way, we're out of touch with the reality? To an extent, maybe. Do you think practitioners are not using Nourish enough because they don't have a training or effort? They're not trying hard enough. Or if not, what's the real issue? What do you think is the real issue? I think it's a bit of like, this is a perception, and I agree. Then there's evidence actually to that too, that we tend to think this way. And when you actually get into the field, we tend to kind of point the finger to each other, kind of thing. But what about you from a student perspective? What do you think is the real issue here? What do you think is happening actually? Think about your experience or talk to yourself, hey, see that professor that we had? Or maybe that person is actually the opposite of this pattern, right? Really good job bringing reality into the course you're learning. Then what's the problem? There is a gap definitely between us. But anyway, does this represent what you feel, your impression of us, practitioners and researchers, academicians, or not? 30 seconds. What do you think? Go. Oh, no. You can talk to each other. Sorry. I'm not going to put you in the spot. I'm going to put you on the spot. 30 seconds. Go. Wow. Just talk to yourself. Talk to each other. What do you think? Hello. What's your name again? Sorry. Holden? Holden. Yeah. Okay. You look very familiar. You took 100 too.
I did, yeah.
But I feel like I know you.
I didn't have it for 100.
You didn't?
No.
You took it with the Gordon Walker? No.
I had it 2019 with
Elizabeth's helping me.
I had a couple other courses with her. It was someone else. It was Ed.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's kind of like skater girl, biker girl. Like really liked.
Starting with the G.
Gabrielle.
Gabby.
She was awesome.
Okay. All right. Skater girl.
Well, like I forgot her name.
That was a good characterization because that helped me, right?
I know my older brother. Nick.
Oh, you look quite similar to each other.
Maybe.
Okay.
He's a Mars graduate.
Oh. What's your last name?
Moronic.
Oh. That could be. How many years ago? Couple years ago?
Graduated 2017.
I was a PhD student here, so I could be. Yeah, maybe. All right. Well, welcome.
I've been second, but
So what do you think?
I think that practitioners think that academics are the time because they're not actually working in the field, so they kind of feel like they have the relevant, like working in the field with people, so they feel like they have an experience.
So they have that first-hand knowledge of what's happening, what the people want. That makes sense.
So that's they think like that. How stress they just understand the numbers and staff and stuff like that. As for with the academics and the practitioners, with academics, I think that they're not doing it the way they see it.
Yeah.
Trying to do it a different way, modify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's like a lack of training or lack of effort.
Yeah.
Higher standards.
It's like, yeah. It's like, oh, you don't understand. Like that's not the way it's supposed to be supposed to be done. But that could be because of the reflection of what's the current trends and what's what needs to be done in organizations and rules and regulations and whatnot. Great points. You're yawning, buddy. You're like you're on top of it. Like, this is too easy, Shin. All right. Okay. So what do you think? There is a gap, maybe, but does these characterizations of practitioners and academicians, do they represent what you thought of us and them, or a little different? No hard feeling, yo. Like, seriously, you can tell me. Carmen is like, okay, well, did I hear something over there too? Anybody else? So, well, let's go with the theory first.
I think some jobs definitely are out of touch.
You're gonna stop recording. Just kidding. That makes sense. Sometimes I feel that when I'm reading a textbook, and especially when the textbook talk about something like technology, and it goes like, what year were you born? Seriously, nobody uses like radio. Nobody uses one of those whatever the gadget thing what you're talking about. Nobody not a lot of people have like a cable TV anymore. How many of you actually have a cable TV? Like actual TV, not a streaming services. Okay. Well, how many of that is actually your contract, not your parents? One. And Curtis, I'm proud of you. Yeah, there you go. Sports, like I gotta have that hockey, basketball, everything throughout. I respect that. But see, but still the technology chapter so much talk about the TV. There's a little bit of difference between streams. Anyway, sorry, I go off the tangent. I shouldn't be. You're just saying that we shouldn't go off the topic. Anyway, any other ideas about this? Krista?
Even like school teachers.
Like a high school, junior high.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot more stuff now that we understand about the learning styles that are maybe that wasn't around when they were being educated. A lot of that now is like really forward with teachers. It's like, say, some students, they don't all work, like, I think we're pretty different styles with your class or like different practices of learning. So that I find is your practice that for being like what's being taught and how people are learning, how learning is happening now versus like say some teachers that are more senior in your field but are not in touch with like the
Right.
practice.
They don't get that update about what's newer evidence and what's newer practices and standards and whatnot. There's more of a divide and a distance between what's happening, and that makes sense. So sometimes that happens to us too. Like, I consider myself as a little bit of more junior than some other people, and they have a lot more experience in many ways, but at the same time, like, yeah, I wouldn't talk about the technology the same way that they would, just because like I'm a user of those social media. Like many people, professors in their 50s and 60s, they don't use the social media. Like they're like, I'm gonna maybe do it for my grandkids, to post my grandkids' pictures. But that's not the way probably many of us use. So there's that little bit of out of touch I can see. Anything else? What about practitioners? Are they all good too, Natalia?
From the practitioner, like, I think a lot of it boils down to time capacity. Like reflecting on my previous career, I would have loved to take more time to look at market data, research best practices.
Yes.
Ensuring that my day-to-day practices were cutting edge. I simply did not have time or capacity.
Right.
So
Right.
tasks were never ending.
Yes.
The to-do list was always growing.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's actually for the practitioner side, I think, and that's consistent with my observation and conversation with practitioners. They just don't have the time. I'm sitting on a committee about the research, helping research with the ATRA people, the Alberta Therapeutic Recreation Association people. One of the things that practitioners are telling me, Shin, this is all great, but you got to understand how many hours we have, extra hours, outside of day-to-day work, which is zero, actually negative. Like we're pushing the boundary every day, edging into our family life, leisure life, and then making it work. And in how we're trying to, I'm not the one trying to, let them do the research. It's the association trying to do the research. But anyway, how can we actually fit into research with this? We need more support, right? To actually reduce the work and maybe, compensate more so that other people can take up the work, whatever. But they're very busy too. They're not really lack of training or lack of effort, especially. They're trying hard, especially recreation field, I found. But they don't necessarily have the resource as well. Now, thank you. Mary Parr also found that there are two ways, two perspectives to look at leisure recreation degrees by practitioners. And very simplistic divide, two ways. One is optimistic, one is skeptical, one is positive, one is negative, right? And the kind of degree that you're doing right now. So let's take a look. Well, some practitioners, so probably you want to work with those people, tend to think that knowing something, having that systematic knowledge, hopefully, of the topic, leisure, recreation, sports, tourism, park, camp, campus recreation, whatever, helps, is vital, is critical to their work. They want those people, newer generation, hopefully with the newer knowledge, to come in. Other people, practitioner, that's actually, I don't want to say this is, I don't think this is a big majority, but I also agree with this research finding based on my experience that there is certain group of people, practitioners, think that, yeah, that degree doesn't matter. The education doesn't matter. Have little to do with the actual practices. How do you feel? You spend a few years, at least a half a year in your degree, maybe many of you more. Do you feel like in your degree, you're getting more marketable, competitive, competent? You feel like you can get a job, do your job? Or you don't feel like it? You can't picture you working in that, whatever the job that you want. You want to be sports management, sports financial analyst. You want to be park person. Yes, Krista.
One, there are people with like a skeptical point of view with that, and like I guess like it would fall into the practice theory gap. Would that be like the idea of like if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of idea that like they're happy with their current methods and how they're working, so they don't feel the need to like update the new theories, I guess.
So it's like a status quo to an extent, that they're doing fine now. I mean, it's not like their business is going down or something like that. So they don't want to mess with what's going on right now. To an extent, I think it is too. And also part of it, I feel like that they may feel threatened to an extent too. That, for example, typically when we talk about degree and field practice, what we talked about is entry degree, what we call that to enter that field of practice. What degree do you need? Do you need just high school diploma? Do you need a associate degree, 2-year degree, like a Northwest College and things like that? Do you need a 4-year degree? Do you need a master degree? Do you need a PhD, so on and so forth, right? Right now, most of the recreation, sports and tourism field, they don't even require bachelor. It's a preferred. Yeah, maybe it's good to have, quote unquote, good to have one of those degrees, but it's not necessary. Like it's not like a medical field. You see, it's not like a law degree. Like you gotta have it. It's not like that. And of course, it's not always good to make such clear requirements. You have to have a degree, but so majority of the people who are working do not have a burst degree. And let's say you come in with a burst degree with quote unquote maybe great knowledge. I hope so. We wish so. They may feel threatened to an extent. Okay, does that mean that we now have to go back and get educated? We have more work to do. What's the second point?
Going to not all places need a degree necessarily. I've applied to a job. It was actually a supervisor position I applied to, and they actually turned me down and said it's because that haven't completed my degree August. They told me that having a degree made me overqualified for the position, and that's why I didn't get the job.
I'm sorry. I feel like I have to write an email to that person. So you send that person to the email to us, and then like overqualification, Chris. Well, anyway, we're gonna have a chat about that after class. Anyway, thank you. But I come from obviously this perspective, optimistic. I hope that you will feel this way optimistically about your degree. And if not, let us know, because we have to make the degree better so that you can feel optimistic about what you're getting out of degree and being competent in your future job. Anyway, well, thank you. We're going to continue, but it's a Monday. So get your coffee or whatever tea in your system. Keep going 5 days. I'll see you Wednesday. All right. I love this hat, man. See ya. Any question, let me know. Stop recording.